Britain has just got its seventh Prime Minister in 10 years, but Andy Burnham is promising the opposite of that constant turnover. He's promising stability and a real attempt to tackle the country's deep-seated problems. His pitch, in his own words, is to bring growth to every postcode in the land. Burnham made his name as the mayor of Greater Manchester, the man they call the King of the North. Some people now talk of Manchesterism, the idea that the model he built in the city, based on devolved power, local transport, a hands-on regional governing state, could become the template for how he governs the whole country. He has even set up a second seat of government that he calls Number 10 North in Manchester. So this is a Prime Minister who wants power and investment shared more evenly across the United Kingdom. His first 2 weeks have gone well, and commentators have called it one of the strongest openings in recent memory. For the first time in well over a year, Labour is back ahead in the polls. Depending on the survey, the party is either narrowly leading reform or level with it. His personal ratings are, by British standards, unusual. He has come into the office clearly on the positive side, already more popular than Keir Starmer ever was and off to a better start than Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss. In a country where prime ministers usually live deep in the negatives, that is worth noting. But it's worth being clear about what this bones rests on. It is built on expectation, not on delivery. Nothing has yet been tested against the constraints, and those constraints are severe. Britain is running a large deficit. It carries debt close to the size of its entire economy, and it borrows at the highest cost in the G7. Every promise has to be paid for from somewhere. The tension showed up in his first week. He promised scrapping the VAT on electricity bills and brought back a £2 cap on bus fares. These are small sums, but noticeable ones. A bus journey a pound cheaper. An average family saving around £4 a month on their entire energy bill. Not transformational, but the kind of thing that people register week to week. Almost immediately, though, the question arrived, how is it funded? The financing of these first measures is already disputed, and that argument is a preview of the central problem that this government will likely face. His second week set out a bigger vision on devolution. His local first plan lets English mayors keep more of the money raised locally and, for the first time, share an income tax. He announced a £1 billion push against youth unemployment, with technical education offered from the age of 14. And he promised to finally reform social care, which he calls the biggest change in 40 years. The cabinet tells its own story, and it's a mixed one. He cleared out the Starmer loyalist. John Healey at the Treasury is a signal of fiscal discipline, as Shabana Mahmood stays at the Home Office, where she has pursued a notably restrictive line on migration. But Anne Miliband from the party's left moves to the Foreign Office, and the government's economic instincts lean clearly towards a more active state. That is visible in the economic agenda itself. Burnham wants greater public control over essential services, energy, water, housing and transport, including taking Thames Water in public ownership. He wants to re-industrialize Britain with a 10-year industrial plan, and he blames much of what went wrong on the 1980s, on the privatizations and the reforms of that era. But it is where the question starts. Britain has some of the highest industrial energy costs in the developed world, higher than any other G7 country, or above France and Germany. Reindustrializing on that basis is hard. And Britain's real strength today lie in services, in finance, in tech, in the professions, strengths that were built in large part on the very reforms of the 1980s that he criticizes so sharply. It is also worth remembering that many politicians across the political spectrum have promised to reindustrialize Britain, and so far none has really delivered. The ambition seems to be genuine, but the obstacles are just as real. One area worth watching is artificial intelligence, where Burnham strikes a notably different tone. Where Starmer quoted big tech firms, Burnham talks about tech sovereignty, about British ownership, and about making sure that AI and data centers benefit local communities and not only Silicon Valley. He has made AI a full cabinet-level job, which makes the United Kingdom the first country in Europe with an AI minister at the top table. For Europe more broadly and for Germany, the message is continuity with a potentially warmer tone. Burnham is a pragmatic pro-European. He will keep Starmer's reset with the European Union, probably drawing a little closer, and he will hold the line on Ukraine and on NATO. But his room for maneuver abroad is limited by the state of the public finances at home. And this is the hard part, still ahead of him. There is no new money. Ministers have been told to cut and to reprioritize, and the first budget lands on the 28th of October. Burnham for now is on holiday. The real test will come when the difficult choices arrive, starting with that budget. The bounce is real, but whether it survives contact with the arithmetic, that is the open question.